is the voice of the athletes and protects them through the policy, along with Professor Jukic, my friend here, with his experience in high performance in all levels, multiple teams, and also as an advisory board member of the ELPA. And of course, Coach Kazys Maksvytis, EuroLeague head coach's board member, and Manisa basketball head coach, who's going to give us his view, how he works with the medical team throughout the season, and his leadership from tactics to player availability. How do we protect the players? So we're going to get into the foundation of this panel. And if we could go to the next slide, please. I would like to say what builds a core component of a sports medicine team. If I had to break it down, it doesn't only have to do with the roles. It's more about relationships. You need to build a rapport with your team where everybody trusts each other, respect the role of each other, and they have a game plan throughout the season to reduce the risk injury. So in your team, you do need your team physician, sports dietitian, high performance members, of course your coaching staff, strength and conditioning, the list goes on and on, psychologists, external consultants, orthopedic surgeons, and that's where you see all of these experts get together with the player at the center. That's when you build an elite team. In the US, we call this a multidisciplinary team, and like talking with Professor Jukic, that's what we've implemented to protect the athlete. But not only the athlete, we're going to see how we also care about the coaches, the coaching staff for a healthy season, where it's going to keep us through the longevity of the game. That's our goal, right? We want our key players, we want everyone to be healthy, we want them to be available for game day and practice at their best, with the ultimate goal of winning. I'm going to get into the questions right now. Coach, I'm going to start with you. What's the role of the medical team on your decision-making throughout the season?
So first of all, hi everybody. So first of all, sport is basketball. It's how to reach maximum result, working with the big loads, and medical stuff. It's very important for the team. Even when you start the season, you start some recruiting some players, but they need to pass a medical check, and this information can affect the player and all the season. If you talk about the team. During the season, of course, injury prevention, game load, recovery after the game. So very important to have a good professional medical staff and to work together.
Very important points. And Igor, what do you think that coaches and teams still underestimate when it comes down to performance and well-being for the rest of the season?
First of all, hello to everybody who stays here with us, with persistence and endurance. And also, I'm going to take an opportunity to say something before. Never forget backstage, because probably you are pretty aware how important backstage in your clubs is crucial for success. But also here on this conference, congrats for organizers and for backstage, all these kind people around. Please give them applause. I hope they hear. First of all, new topic and hot topic in high performance sport and high performance basketball is about well-being, health, and connection with readiness and performance, both for coaches, and we will speak today about it, and for players. Also, very important topic is for some new age in close and far future will be how to reach that off the court. Because we know a lot what is important on the court, but how we can behave off the court, both coaches and players, and what we can do in 24/7 organization of their time to improve their abilities. This is chance for protection. And of course, very important topic today, and researches show that in very strict manner that communication and communication style of coaches can influence injury occurrence. Very interesting. But also, communication between staff members and climate and atmosphere between staff members is also important and influence injury occurrence. Better harmony in team, in staff, less injuries. Fantastic fact which can contribute to us to change mind, to change mindset, and to behave in that way.
Igor, thank you for saying that. Communication is key. You're going to hear this word a lot throughout this panel, but building those blueprints, as we call them, early on in the season, we know how we all share responsibility for the athlete. Boki, from the policy side, how is ELPA helping make player care more standardized?
Like my good friend here said, it's already late in the day, so I'm not going to go too much into policy because I think we'll lose everybody if I do that. The policy and the rules and things are of course important, and I want to make it very clear that EuroLeague is very specific in that way. Not just because it's EuroLeague, but also because a EuroLeague player plays an incredible amount of high-pressure, high-level games throughout the season, and especially next year, this is going to go up to about 90 games on average per player. So with that, of course, throughout the years, we have a lot of conversation with the league, with the coaches, on how to find the right balance between the rules that, on one hand, protect the player to not be overworked, to be able to recover properly, but on the other side also to allow players to be prepared up to their maximum in each of those games. So this balance between one and the other is very tricky. I think this morning in the conversation we came to the conclusion that it's probably no easy solution, right? But I think this back and forth and allowing players to feel comfortable and confident that the rules are there to not just protect them, but to help them is the most important thing. Whether it's the medical standards that the clubs have, whether it's the quality of travel, whether it's the amount of practice, etc., etc. I'm not going to go into all the rules, but again, EuroLeague is specific in that way because the rules are there to, number one, protect players, but number two, keep players on the court. That's what we all want. It's all about this. We all want the competition, the league to grow in the right way, and that happens only if you have players on the court.
Big takeaway there. We want the players on the court. We see how the seasons become more and more demanding, heavier calendars, more teams added in the EuroLeague next season. How do we protect the athletes? So for you, Thodoris, what is a player-centered care look like?
What is that?
How does a player-centered care look to you? How does the medical staff come in and help the player for you?
It's the most important for an athlete that he wants to stay in the highest level. I had great relationship with the people that are working the team. I was also having people of my own because I can understand and I can respect that the coaching, the staff of the team, they don't have enough time to take care of 16 people, the players. So it was a combination. The most important that we had trust and we were working on it. I was always honest with them. When I was small injury, when I was feeling pain, when I was feeling a little bit strange, and I was totally trusting them when they were telling me that I have to take care of that I'm okay, don't worry, keep on practicing and everything will be all right. Thank God I didn't have any injury during my career. The only surgery I had, it was after I quit basketball when I started to play soccer. So my body was not used to play. I didn't have practiced well to play soccer, and I was doing things that I was doing back in the days when I was playing basketball, so my body punished me. During my career, I had great physios, great coaches, and great doctors. And the most important, most of the times, all these guys, they were working together in the right way. I totally understand that some games are more important than others, but the risk that you have to take, they have to inform you like a player, and you are the one that will take the decision. And thank God I had physios and doctors and coaches that they helped me very much to understand that I had to stop for 10, 15 days or to stay out of practices even before big games, because they understood, because you know, when you're young, you want to play, you want to win. And they helped me to protect my career, and that's very important.
And that's a key point, having a team around you, behind the team that we talked earlier, that is elite and knows when to pull you back, discuss with the coaches when that time is needed. Let's give this player a rest because we need him for the next game, and the next game is very important. So, Thodoris, that's a great point, and I'm glad you had an injury or major injury-free career. It means you were surrounded by great people and experts, and that's what we need for all the teams. So here's the reality. We're going to talk about how, no matter the budget, how can we build a team where it's smart and sustainable on the health system. You don't have to go break the bank. You don't have to go buy every single gadget that is out in the market. You need to trust your coaching staff, your performance center, and know they're going to tell you which resources are good for you to bring into the team and help the players stay healthy. So with that, Igor, you've worked with all types of environments, different sports. Last year here in Athens, you moderated an excellent congress on load management. Where do you see the next, what do you tell to a team where they don't have the budget to buy everything out in the market? What do you tell them to invest in to protect their athlete?
Yes, right question for this audience. From my experience, more than 90% of coaches have no opportunity to use high-tech devices. But we have good news, because we have low-tech and even no-tech devices. Pen and paper, talk with players is no-tech, but sometimes this no-tech became a top-tech. Why? Because we should consider players as a human being. And we should more talk with them and sometimes don't only teach them. If we talk with them, if we ask them for some basic activities in their life, we can know a lot about them and then use this information directly to plan and periodization and everyday activities. This is why I said good news for all coaches. This is about how coaches make decisions. First of all, they have some data collecting around. Second, based on their knowledge and experience. But also, don't forget, it's about intuition. And what is intuition? Today, even biomedical sciences contributes this general field of knowledge with some facts that gut-brain and heart-brain coherence is very important for making decision process. For this process, we don't need high-tech always. We need our brain and considering players as human beings.
100%. Being considerate, again, the part of communication came into play. In your teams, find the time where, whether it's on the plane, discuss with your athletes, discuss with your coaches, how are you feeling? As medical professionals, as performance specialists, that's something that we find the right time to get that information. And from that information, we extract the data and we can give them a game plan tailored for them to stay healthy. Again, it's all about keeping the player on the court, being able to perform, and having the ultimate goal of winning championships and also enjoying the game. So Boki, what would you say to a club that says, well, we don't have the money to invest in any of this?
I think Igor already said it in the right way, in quote unquote invest in the things that you can. And by why I say quote unquote, because it's not all about money at the end. It's about sharing information, it's about learning from what other clubs do away from the heavy investing, but also in terms of what the staff does, what have they learned in the past, etc., etc. So even at the EuroLeague level, there are still some differences between clubs. Some clubs invest more in the medical part, some clubs invest less, but I've seen by talking to the experts that at the end of the day it's about sharing information about what really helps them and what doesn't. It's not always the latest gadget, like you said, the latest machine in the market. I've learned that coaches want proven methods. They want to see what works. And what we like to encourage is even more collaboration between clubs and even more collaboration of sharing information. I think in the future we're going to see a much bigger sharing of data through EuroLeague as well, which is going to help. And I think this is going to optimize also the budgets. So it's not only about the latest machine that might be super expensive, but what actually works and what actually brought the results. And I think this is going to help everybody in the long term.
I agree. I've seen organizations or work with organizations that they have every gadget that you can think of, and I have seen very successful teams having an Excel sheet, a foam roller, and very committed staff. So again, invest in your people that are working in your team. I think it's in the bottom of the slide. It's not so much about the role, it's about the relationship you build in your team. And if there is clear communication, expectations are clear from the beginning of the season, you're going to see a lot of success. Thodoris, where do you see the teams investing more as a player, in recovery strategies or communication and being there for you?
You need both. And also you have to take care of the athletes during the season, in preparation and during the practices. And communication is very important, but all this has to do with trust, like we said before. I understand coaches' job is very difficult, and now, especially in the EuroLeague, it's even more difficult because they don't have enough time. And I see them, they want to change how the team reacts, what they think, and they don't have enough time. They don't have enough time to work on it. But on the other hand, we have to understand that it's a new product. Right now, the sport is becoming more athletic, and we have to protect the athletes to be able to play it, because in the end of the day we're going to have a great product and nobody to play it. Right now I will talk about Europe because I'm mostly focused in Europe. There is also the NIL. A lot of players, they find it very interesting to move over there. So in the end of the day the coaches will not have product to use on the court, because it's very difficult now to find talent, and the talent, if it starts to move, it's going to be even more difficult. But the teams and the coaches, they have to understand that they have to have players ready in the end of the season. Because, unfortunately, everybody is judged in the end of the season. So, they have to find the right balance to get the highest of what their players can give them in a specific period. And another mistake that I try not to do it, don't compare different periods, different eras, because nowadays basketball has changed, and something that I was doing, it does mean that it's right to do it in this period, and also it does mean that everybody can do it. There were some athletes that they were doing things like, even if I tried very hard, I could not do it. So the most important to find what you can do, what's your highest, what's your best self, and try to go a little bit further. And from my point of view, that's a great coach. Knowledge is very important, but the most important is to get from the players that you have this specific period their highest. You have to also adapt and try to give them your mentality, what you think about basketball, but is also to understand what he can give you, the player can give you back. The teams, they have to understand that it's a marathon, and you have to invest not only in how you're gonna bring the player back from the injury or back in shape, but the most important is to help him don't get injured.
Correct. And adaptation, key point here. Also, having the coaches stay informed. So for you, coach, during the season, how do you stay informed from the medical team about the return to play for your players? When are they available, etc.?
So I'm very happy that I didn't see any medical stuff before the practice, because I know if he's coming into my room, something happened. So I think we need to keep still, we need to try to reach long-term results. So and if we have some small issues or big issues, of course, we need to see big picture and to have mentality like player health is over the result. So we keep connection every time with the doctor before, after the practice, but from my experience I know that we are very happy that doctor is not coming to our room.
And that's exactly the point we want to make today. When the doctor comes into play, when an injury happens, when something acute happens, that's the best recipe for disaster. We want to be proactive. You know, in the beginning of the season, we do the evaluation for participation for the athlete. And you cannot imagine how many things we have caught early that together with the coaching staff, the performance, we're able to work on, whether it's during the off season or when we need to strengthen the quads, for example, for a knee valgus that we've been noticing, core strengthening. All those things can be caught early on these evaluations that happen in the beginning of the season, and ideally in the end of the season, when we've gone through that marathon that Thodoris was talking about. In many, many games, many of those players are going to go out and play for their national teams, and that's where sometimes the information gets lost. So what Boki mentioned about collecting the data, keeping surveillance of the injuries, but also of the body of each player, because yes, position 5 is going to have different demands, your guard is going to have different demands, but also each player individually is going to have different demands for their body. And if we have those data, we're going to be able to build a very elite team, and also, in the end of the day, keep those players on the court, achieving more and more of their potential. So thank you for making that point, Coach. That's the culture we want to change. We shouldn't be scary for you guys. Come find us early on in the season, because we're all working together to get through this. Thank you for switching the slide. So what we call about catching those things in the pre-participation is proactive care. That's how you avoid crisis management. It's too late when, yes, you're going to have acute injuries. We saw this season there were many sudden injuries that happened, but there are some techniques that you can, I'm not going to say prevent, but I'm going to say reduce the risk, increase performance, and give longevity to the athlete. Have them stay in the game until it's the actual day to retire, when their body cannot keep up, but not because of a major injury that kept them out of the game. So Thodoris, you've talked a lot about trust, and trusting your team, trusting your performance group, your strength and conditioning. For you, during your playing years, what was that you saw, what qualities you saw in those people that helped you build trust with them?
For me, it was very important, first of all, the guy was talking to listen to me. If he was listening to me, I knew we were going to find a solution. Sometimes you meet some people that they want to show that they're really good, and they're really good, and they try to tell you what you have. So the moment I met somebody that he was listening, he was trying to understand what is the problem that I have, if it was pain or if it was feeling somewhere bad. And then you need time, because every player, everybody is different. It doesn't mean that if you do something to one player, it's going to work in every player. Or sometimes, even to myself, I made some treatment for the same injury, and one time it was working, and the other time it was not working. So the thing is that I needed somebody to listen to me, to try to explain to me what was the problem and what you have to do to solve it. It would be even better to tell me that I have plan A, plan B, plan C. It means that we're going to try doing this, and if it does work, we're going to try something different. And also to have a timeline, because for a sportsman, like an athlete and like a coach, he needs a timeline. We know that it's not always specific, but more or less to know, because during the injury you have ups and downs. If the other person explains to you, listen, you're gonna feel great the first 3 days. After, it's very possible for 2 days to feel bad, and then you're gonna be okay. The moment you feel bad, if you already know it, your psychology is not gonna go against you, because psychology in this is a very important part. Right. So, if I knew what's gonna happen, it was very helpful for me to be 100% with a treatment or with a program I had to follow. And if you really trust what you do, you have more chances to get well. So I think these two things, somebody to listen to me, and it needs time to check this working together.
Exactly, and that's where it comes again. If you only see the doctor, if you only see the performance when an injury has happened, if you only see the physio then, how are you going to build that trust? It's throughout the season. If they took the time to do your evaluation in the beginning of the season, you're able to communicate while traveling with the season, they build a rapport. You're able to get to know them, and that's when they trust you. You make the right diagnosis. You give them a time frame along with the performance and the physios of when this player is going to come back. Then they start working on the mental component. Many players, we've seen them, they return back medically to be clear to play or participate in the practice, but they don't have the confidence to go jump for that big board because the mental part has not been worked early on in the game. So thank you, Thodoris, for bringing into the mental health, because that's another big component when we're dealing with elite teams, but even on the younger age. Know how to deal with an injury. Know how to deal when something puts you off your schedule and be able to come back even stronger. So Boki,
the most difficult period for an athlete is not when he's not playing well. The most difficult period for an athlete is when he's injured, because all the insecurities, all the strange thoughts, you are all by yourself, and you can understand. So everybody thinks when you don't play well, you're gonna practice more, you're gonna sleep better, eat better, go to the weight lift more. Eventually you're gonna come back. The injuries, you just to the physio, to the doctor, and you stay home. So you have to consider this. No athlete wants to be injured.
Thank you. Boki, how does ELPA reinforce that proactive care model so we don't deal with crisis? What are some of the steps that ELPA has taken towards that?
I mean, we are not, as ELPA, we are not day-to-day with the players. It's not our job to do that. We rely, heavily on our performance advisory board, and also then, it's up to the clubs and their performance staff. Our engagement is more with the league. But the thing that I would like to see improve in the near future is even better communication between the clubs and the league, especially on how the players are being trained, what tools are being used, etc., etc. I think there's still some reservation in this, and it's very difficult then to get a complete picture on what exactly can be done. So this is maybe an area that can be improved. But again, and I said this many times, in Europe, in European basketball, we have so much knowledge from the coaches, from the performance experts, etc., etc. I think what's still missing is the next step of sharing this information better. So I think that's where the future is.
I agree. Sharing that information is going to bring all the teams to the next level, protect, and it's all about longevity, staying long in this game, but not just for the players. And that's where, Igor, I want you to tell us, how do we protect the coaches? How do we keep them healthy and lead by example for those players?
Very simple. Coach is the central person in high-performance sport. No doubt. And everybody should be interested to protect coaches, to care about caretakers, how to organize that. Thanks to EHCB, in cooperation with ELPA, we've started to talk, and now from this very moment and this conference, this Congress, to work on this protection. Now we have some closed workshops, and I will use this opportunity and this occasion to announce to all coaches that we will share all materials coming from these discussions, and probably you will find there in these materials very useful information related to your health, well-being, and especially your performance and readiness. Because it is well connected. Health, well-being, performance, and readiness. Your performance is very important. You are main decision makers. If coach is well, everybody will have benefits. If coaches suffer, everybody suffer. But the main question is, what community should do for coaches, clubs, national federations, and of course, what coaches should do for themselves. This personal engagement and care about themselves, about yourself, is crucial. And again, good news. We have fantastic tools we will share with you later, in next days, which you can use in everyday life. All tools are pretty cheap and effective. Fantastic news for all of us.
Very important. Coach Health, those workshops, really impressed by the interaction and the participation, because we've identified a niche that can help the coaches protect themselves for a long season, a marathon. And now I want to switch gears a little bit and go to the future. Like Thodoris said, changes as the seasons go by, players, higher demands, heavy calendars. Earlier we saw an excellent presentation by the HIVAC group, and I can see how gadgets and technology like this can help not only rehabilitation, but preparing the player for the game. So congratulations to Thodoris, and Christos Fiotakis brought a lot of energy into the gym. So Igor, where do you see those technologies coming in the future? What is the next breakthrough in these technologies?
Yes, thank you for this question. Very important for all of us, because we should be aligned with modern time, but also with modern generations of athletes, which are set it up in different ways compared to 10, 15, 20 years ago. But also, the same is for coaches. Coaches tend to take opportunities, high-tech opportunities, and they are doing that in everyday life. But generally, what we can expect and what we should do in close and far future is related to our goodwill, to take care long-term process, because sometimes we forget what is about long-term process. How first to make human, then athlete, then player, and then winner. This is long-term. Short-term, we can use a lot of different aspects. But I would like to emphasize one: how to care about emotional and mental or cognitive load. And what I expect also from high-performance technologies and industry to help us how to care more about emotional and cognitive load. In close future, everything will be related to this topic, because more or less we know a lot about physical performance, physiology, biomechanics, but we have no so many solutions how to measure and how to use cognitive and emotional load. And this is finally everything what we need for our work.
And we do have the tools. We do have the tools to monitor that load. So I wanted to ask coach, how do you use your data during the season? Do you use any of those technologies, talking with your performance staff throughout the season?
Of course, team doctor is doing this job, but of course, we are in charge of this. We are together. So I think the goal for the future is still to more individualize, personalize, like a recovery, preparation, even warm-up for the players. And I think in the future we'll more go for this stuff.
Yes, I agree. We need to incorporate those data, like Boki was saying earlier. We need to share the information. It's done in the NBA, it's done in all the organizations that share those information. We can protect the athlete. And EuroLeague is taking the right steps towards that. So from the ELPA standpoint, what have we started gathering so far as data, and how can we use them to protect both coaches and, especially with ELPA, the players?
Well, we of course rely on the data captured by, together with the cooperation with the league throughout the, number one, reporting from the club's medical staff regarding the absences of players in practices and sickness, injuries, etc., etc. And then you have the other part of data, which is visible on the court, minutes of players, injuries, missed games, etc., etc. So there's already something that you can compile, that you can extract to get certain conclusions. I think the future is going to lie also in data, collective data collected from the practices. I think that's the part that is still missing, right? Because the basketball player is not just when he's on the court for 40 minutes. It's other, other 22 hours in the day or whatever that the player also is being active in that sense, whether it's preparation for the game, travel, and so on and so on. Practices, obviously. So that's the part that I think it's coming next, and it's divided in two parts. One is the collective data, but I think at the end of the day, most important aspect is what the coach just said, is individualized approach. Each player is different. Each player is his own athlete, and that's where the experts come in from the clubs to work with the players.
Very, very important. Individualized approach is how we create our protocols. We notice the injury patterns, we keep that data, and whether that player is not going to stay with us the next season, NCAA, it was mentioned earlier, NIL, players transfer within one season. Every year they might be on a different college, but that information carries over with them. They go to the next team, the doctors, performance specialists, they have everything available to review and not try things that might have not worked in the past, like we were saying earlier. We're not repeating the cycle from the beginning. We're taking over and continuing what can improve the athlete. And that's a great point, and I have to commend you on what ELPA has been doing over the last years, growing, and that data sharing is going to be another big point in the league. We're reaching towards the end of this panel, and we're going to give you a chance for questions. But before we get there, let's take a magic wand, and every single one of you, I want to ask this question. If you were able to make one change in the EuroLeague in regards to players' health, what would it be? Whoever wants to go first, and then we'll have the rest of the panel go.
I mean, I already mentioned it a couple of times. To me, it's a sharing of information. I think that's basic, and I think that's coming because if you have a complete picture of the data that you can compile from the players, you can take certain measurements on how to protect players. Because if I go back 45 minutes in this conversation, what I said first, it's all about keeping players on the court. So that's my thing. It's the data that needs to be corrected in the right way.
I agree. That's the main goal. Keeping athletes on the court. We've said it many times, but in the end of the day, that's what we want. We want to see quality basketball, healthy bodies playing in there. Professor, what would be your change?
As I said at the beginning, the communication, sharing data, but also inside of the staff, communication with the players, communication like EHCB is doing with referees, EuroLeague, and like all situation is in our life. We always have recognized the context, then use the content or choose the content, then try to dose appropriately, and finally to find a timing. Sometimes, like in family, you know, with our wives or our friends, timing is everything. And I think time in front of us is optimistic time. And I believe EuroLeague is on right way with all stakeholders present.
What about you, Coach? What change would you make?
So I would say that we need to still personalize and pay bigger attention to the players, because players are playing, players are creating result, and we need to find the way for a different player, because one player can be young player, veteran, after injury. So I would go to individual.
Individualized care, and I agree. What about you, Thodoris?
I think we should focus more on quality and less in quantity, if you ask me. In every aspect of basketball, from practice, prevention, games, I think we should focus a little bit more in quality.
I agree. This is the end of our panel. What we learned today is that elite teams don't just treat the player. They protect them, they partner with them, and they have them ready for a long and healthy career. Let's open it up for questions from you guys.
No questions.
If you have any questions, you can raise your hand and we'll get you over there.
Everybody's tired.
Everything clear?
Hello, guys. Thank you for the talk. This is a very interesting topic. Okay, for me personally, for obvious reasons, but also for, I think this is the one area that the EuroLeague and all the leagues have a chance to improve. And you know, we can talk about a lot of things. I want to point out and ask a couple of questions. One is, what is this panel's idea about? Because I heard the question, if you could change one thing in the EuroLeague, what would it be? If you ask me, it would be to normalize and rationalize the length of the season. And I want to ask your opinion about that. And the second thing is, I want to ask from the players' side, how do they I think it's more for Boki, how do players evaluate overall the support they're getting from EuroLeague teams currently? Because if we want to improve, we got to know where we are. And if we think from our side that we're great, and players feel that things are not well, except a few exceptions, then I think we're far away. So first would be, what do you think about the season, what could be done? And second would be this, what do the players think?
Mm-hmm. I mean, regarding the season, as you know, first of all, Kostas, thanks for questions. Regarding the season, I think it's a separate panel that we should discuss the calendar and everything. I think it's an issue, right? We all know that it's a huge problem, and to the players of EuroLeague, when we talk to them, they don't just look at the EuroLeague calendar; they look at the 365-day calendar for them. You know, so the issue is much broader than just the EuroLeague calendar, which is already at its complete maximum. Hopefully, only for one or maximum 2 seasons, and then they will change. Regarding the satisfaction of players, we've done questionnaires with players, so we have a pretty good idea. The good thing is definitely that players are more and more happy with how things are done from the performance teams of the clubs. We also see that clubs have invested more into the performance staff and the technologies, which is great. What we see that the league is still lacking a little bit, or the clubs are still lacking understanding, and I know you understand it personally, the recovery of the players. When it comes to travel, when it comes to having enough time to properly recover between games, etc., etc. here I think is still a lot of reserve that league still needs to improve to allow players to properly recover after games, especially in this crazy calendar. And I think that's the next step that's going to have to come, you know, especially with traveling more comfortably and traveling quicker from city to city, and to not go to sleep like we discussed many times at 4 in the morning, knowing that in less than 48 hours you have a next game. So that's the part that players complain the most, you know.
I think the teams must understand that it's the same important who's going to be the third point guard, the third big guy that is combined with the fourth guy we have. We have to do exactly the same with their strength condition coaches, with their doctors, with their physios, because as basketball have changed, maybe they're a little bit more important, because you need them for the whole season, for the whole team. And they have to listen to them because they're the biggest ally, especially to the coaches. If you can, the team is in this level, you need to hear as you hear your assistant coaches, you have to hear the doctor, the physios, the strength and condition coach, because they know and they understand better what's the real situation with the bodies and the psychology of the players.
I agree. We had an off-the-record discussion a couple days ago, and a big point made is you need to have those like medical timeouts. And it's not, when you say medical, it's not because somebody is injured, but getting everybody, this multidisciplinary team on the same table, giving 5-minute update before you jump into practice is going to solve a lot of problems, and it's going to find a lot of solutions towards the season.
Yeah, you're totally right. Just because we the audience here is coaches and is not a technical, let's say, doctor or strength coach meeting. Last thing I want to say is that I believe the most important person in the hierarchy for injury prevention is the head coach, because he's the one that makes all the final decisions, and that's how it should be, because he's the boss. His ass is on the line, let's say, and he has let's say the power or the option to listen to the advice, let's say, or the recommendations that is always should be addressed very respectfully and from our side, and with the knowledge that coaches will make the final decision. And if he says no, don't take it personal, because if you come over, you know, after a EuroLeague game, a coach wants to practice, which we believe he shouldn't, but sometimes the coach is right, because it's not only the physical part involved, it's also the other parts, and we get hurt. Then, you know, the coach is the one that really dictates what happens. In the fastest we align with the coach as medical staffs or performance, whatever. But the coaches need to understand they have a lot of power in this. They're not helpless. So that's my last comment.
I would like to add something more, that as you discussed before, communication is very important. Communication of all the parts inside the team. But I can say that lately in EuroLeague we improve our communication. Every part of the game, every part of the team that is cooperating for the game is communicating each other, but we have now our unions that communicate very well. This is very, very important, because we can solve problems. We have the union of players, we have the union of coaches, we have the union of referees, we have the union of conditioning coaches. I think we have a union of physios, right? Not yet, but it will happen, it will come. So this is very important that we are sitting lately, last 3-4 years. I remember first time we sit with Boki, first time ever between players, coaches and referees in Final Four of Kaunas, right, Boki? Yes, that was the first time that 3 important parts of the game were sitting together to discuss about problems and to solve all these problems between us. So this is very, very important, and I think it's favor of the sport. And with great communication, we can solve problems that was happening a lot of years before. So now everything goes well, and for sure we have our arguments, it's normal. But through these productive arguments, we improve the relationships and we improve the conditions for everybody who is involved to the game.
I agree. You said it, Coach. Communication, having those unions, and having those meetings like the one we're in today and the past weekend is what is going to make the change, what is going to protect our athletes. So thank you for saying that.
Exactly, exactly. Any other question? Okay, thank you very much. A big clap for our panelists.
Coach?
Thank you, gentlemen, for your support.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you very much for being here and helping us. We wish good luck to you, good luck to everybody.